Hi, this is Daniela Wolf with Bestie Life, the podcast, and this is your community to support you through the little and not so little events that make up your day-to-day life. From the I've got this moments to the I just can't moments. We are here to empower all women to find and develop the skills they need to find peace, balance, and the bliss in their busy. Through solo episodes as well as interviews with amazing women who share their journey and their story and how it works for you. I hope you find the inspirations to make you laugh, think, as well as maybe rethink what you thought you knew, and connect as we realize that we are all living similar ups and downs and don't have to do it alone. So excited for you to hear this episode, and thanks so much for joining me today. Hi, this is Daniela with Bestie Life, the podcast, that place where we try and find that sweet spot between hustle and harmony. And today I want to talk about the 3 biggest mistakes to avoid while building your self-care practice. You know, when I talk about self-care, it's not always about those big, massive things. It's definitely a luxury. It's a daily necessity. It's about looking after ourselves so you can show up as your best self in all the other areas of your life. But sometimes we might be unknowingly sabotaging our efforts. And so I want to let you know what those 3 areas are. So grab your favorite beverage, grab a notebook to take some notes, and let's dive in. So the first mistake I see people making is they treat self-care as like a one-size-fits-all solution. Now, what do I mean by this? So imagine you're scrolling through social media, you see one of those influencers, what seems like they have their perfect kind of self-care routine, whether it's face mask, bubble baths, yoga at sunrise on gorgeous patio and things like that. And you think, this is what I need to do in order to feel good. But the thing is, self-care is not about necessarily doing what everybody else is doing. It's a very personal thing as far as the things that light you up, the things that are gonna recharge you, especially knowing if you're an introvert and an extrovert, because there's definitely different types of activities that will fill you up based on that personality type. And so what works for one person may or may not work for another. There might absolutely be pieces of somebody else's routine that work for you, whether it's the aesthetics of it, the actual activity, the timing of it. You know, you might be more of a morning person than a night person or things like that. But don't set yourself up in such a way that you think it has to look identical to somebody else. When I, first started my self-care journey, there was a lot of trial and error because I thought that there were kind of certain routines you had to follow. It took me some time with meditation. I can do that now, but initially meditation was not something I could get into. I had not worked enough on myself in order to appreciate some of the benefits of meditation. Movement had to look very different for me, as well as I was younger. My body was able to do and enjoy different things and get different benefits. I used to be a runner. I used to run a lot, do a lot of races. And so running used to be a huge part of my self-care routine. Now, in my 50s, I am into some slower practices, yoga, Pilates. I love my stand-up paddleboard. These are not activities where my heart is pumping at its maximum capacity and things like that, but I still get some amazing benefits, a lot of the same benefits, if not more, because personally I've grown in such a way that I can appreciate them. I respect my body based on what it can do. And so, again, just finding what those activities are that work for you. I also love a good Netflix binge day and taking a very slow day for that, but I also love connecting with others, laughing, being engaged, out, active, enjoying good food, good music, things like that. So there's a variety of different things. And so really just knowing yourself, and that's part of the journey, knowing yourself so that you can customize that self-care, listening to your body, your mind. Maybe you like painting, hiking, even playing video games, embracing what's really going to make you feel good and not worrying if it fits that traditional self-care mode. The next mistake has to do with overloading your self-care routine. You heard that right. It's actually possible to overload your self-care routine because a lot of times I talk about options and definitely having a variety of different types of activities, different things you can do in different amounts of time and pockets throughout your day. But sometimes you can actually still overpack your schedule with things that make it feel more like a chore than the benefit and that you are choosing to enjoy. I was talking with a friend and she was saying, I'm doing this. And she was listing them off and she's like, I feel like I'm just checking them off a list. And she's trying to, meditate, journal, exercise, cook, read, do a face mask. And it's exhausting when you're doing them from a place of just checking them off a list because you think that action, that activity is going to be the break from your daily grind, but it's actually becoming an addition to it. And so when you overload your routine, it's going to lose its effectiveness and can actually add to your stress. So my advice for you on that is to really prioritize and simplify, so even though you have a variety of options you can do depending on what your day is going to look like, pick a few intentional self-care activities that are generally going to bring you joy and relaxation that day. You don't need to do everything in one day, and that includes the good things. You can have too much of a good thing. It'd be like if you ate an entire half gallon of ice cream in one sitting, as opposed to just really enjoying and savoring that one scoop. So maybe today you go on a walk with a friend. Maybe tomorrow you do some quiet meditation and a face mask. Keep it flexible, keep it fun. Again, having those options is going to help give you that flexibility to kind of adapt and pivot to what your day is going to look like, but don't worry about trying to jam it all in at once. And finally, mistake number 3 is neglecting the basics. Sometimes we get so caught up in these elaborate kind of rituals that we forget the basics, which can be like trying to build a house without having a solid foundation. And the basics are things like getting enough sleep, staying hydrated, eating nourishing food, and just moving your body regularly. I remember again, when I was first starting out, I was trying to do so many different activities. I was going to the gym, I was going out with friends, I was doing a lot of outside external things, but I was still kind of feeling off. And then it hit me, that I wasn't sleeping enough. I was dehydrated. And so I started prioritizing my sleep, and that one little shift then transferred over into how I was eating, even when I was with others, how I was showing up. And so let's remember, by focusing on some of those basics, making sure you're taking care of your basic needs first, which people say, oh, that's just not self-care because that's something you have to do. But when we start neglecting them and not making them a priority, we realize why it's essential to think of them as that way, because self-care isn't always about extras and luxuries. It is the necessities and making sure we are intentionally putting them at the top of our daily to-do list. And when you do that, it's amazing how much better you're going to feel when you're well rested, well fed, and hydrated. So there you have it, the 3 biggest mistakes to avoid building your self-care practice. Recap: the first one is customizing your self-care, making it personal and enjoyable for you, and making sure you're doing the things that really work for you. Second one is simplifying your routine, not overwhelming yourself with too many things in a day. And the third is focusing on the basics, making sure your fundamental needs are at the top of your priority list and that you're meeting them every single day. I hope these tips help you on your self-care journey. Remember, it's not about perfection. It's about the progress and being kind to yourself and giving yourself grace. One step at a time, and you will find what works for you. You will start to create that progress, that movement, those habits that will sustain you on a day-to-day basis. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. If you want to book a free coaching call so that we can see where you're nailing it, where maybe you're struggling and can use a little bit of support and leave with an actionable step for you to start taking in that area, head on over to my Instagram and my link in bio and grab your free coaching call. I would love to be able to hear from you, help you on your journey, and help you overcome some of these obstacles in really achieving your best D life, your best darn life possible. Drop me a message and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much again for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please let me know any questions or comments that you have Also, if you can please leave an Apple 5-star review so that this episode can be shared with more women. There's 2 quotes that I love. Alone we may be strong, but together we are stronger, as well as when women support each other, incredible things happen. So let's be stronger and incredible together, as well as maybe just have some fun along the way. Thanks so much and talk to you soon. Bye.